game-changing discussions on the big ideas that shape our thinking. This is One-to-One.
Most countries learn to document themselves early, not because their lives are extraordinary, but because they understand that memory and indeed culture is infrastructure. Much of Africa hasn't done this systematically. The question is why? Today's conversation is not about photography as art, but photography as record, as institutional memory. My guest today has spent decades quietly documenting a country that never stopped moving. Dayo Adedayo, welcome to One-to-One.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so very much. A real pleasure.
Thank you.
So, let's dive straight in. You're not just a photographer, you are an acclaimed photographer, cultural anthropologist, and author. You are best known for visually documenting Nigeria's culture, its people, its places, and its heritage. Your work is deeply imprinted in the subconscious and identity of the nation. That is not in doubt. In its passports, in its currency, but of course we'll come to that. But I'd like to begin here. You have photographed Nigeria for decades across every corner of the country. At what point, at what stage did you realize you were no longer taking pictures, but you were documenting a nation?
Thank you for inviting me once again. It started in 2003, and I studied photography, by the way, so I'm not an accidental photographer. That was when I went to school to study. Luckily, I went in for a national diploma at the Westminster College in Battersea then. And that was when I actually started knowing the true meaning of photography. So if I haven't been to school, I won't be where I am today. So how did I get into documenting Nigeria? The person that changed my trajectory in photography, and till I die, I'll keep praising him. That's the publisher of Ovation, Otumba Dele. We met at a wedding where I was covering myself, and not for Ovation. Ovation too was there. All of a sudden, I came to Nigeria, and my first time in Nigeria, there was nothing called photography in Nigeria as at 2003. Quote me. As at 2003, all the photography job done in Nigeria, serious work, not social photo, even at social level, there are no photographers, were done by South Africans. So to shoot an advert as of 2003, you have to go to South Africa, or South African comes there to shoot. I told myself, man, this is the place to be. Even though I was charging £5,000-6,000 in the UK, I could see myself making more down here, you know. And by the time Dele Momodu brought me to Nigeria, he took me to the top. And the first wedding I shot in Nigeria was Aisha Obangida's wedding, where all the cream de la cream of Nigeria were there. So if you look at the vision between 2002 down to 2007, if you look at the master, most of the images were shot by Dayo Adedayo. You know? So then I got tired to see, what's all this? And I know the rigor of a wedding off my head. I will tell you what to do and where it will end. Then I asked myself, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? How many of my contemporaries that I went to university with are doing this? Because if you're into portraiture or social photography, in photography business, you are the poorest of the poor. Why did I say so? We had COVID. How many social functions were going on? Zero. People were trying to be safe and live. And I just woke up one day and I said, no, I'm not doing this again. And I gave it up. All my equipment that relates to portraiture, relates to social photography, I gave everything up because I just don't want to see it. But I suffered. Thank God I had a very good wife who was very understanding. But I suffered for about 2 to 3 years. Then I started documentation of Nigeria. Because why? I was the first person in the history of Nigeria. And that is why I love to be on this program. I've watched several series. I haven't come across a politician because there is still a lot to be done in this country. In terms of media, we've not started. We're just scratching the surface. Coming back, you see books of other countries, travel books. There was none on Nigeria. I did so many research, thank God for my university background, which made me to know how to search for things. I came across 2. One by the National Geographic Society, which I still have to tomorrow, but I don't know whether it's still in print or not. There was a Fulani woman on the cover, and Shell, the oil company, did another one as well, which was mainly on the Niger Delta. And the federal government of Nigeria did one, series 1, 2, 3. But if you look at all the pictures, they were totally crap. And I took it upon myself. Dayo, you are a doctor. You train as a doctor. People are dying of malaria. Can't you fix it? And that was the way I see photography. And as God will have it, I started the documentary around October, November 2003 in Abuja. So the first picture I took on my documentary of Nigeria was the National Assembly. So 2 things I stand on. My patriotism in Nigeria. This country is beautiful. This country has been kind to me. And I have nothing but praise, blood, and sweat to give back to my country.
Here, here. Very Churchillian. Blood, sweat, tears, and grit. And well, thank you very much for that. So I'd like us to talk a bit more about that intentional documentation, that institutionalization of memory, or perhaps the absence of it, the cultural silence that much of Africa has chosen. Do you feel that that silence, that absence, has come to shape how Africans generally view the state? I mean, strong enough to end wars, end famine, but uneasy with the preservation of our memory through time and even through crises. Rwanda, for example, has chosen to institutionalize memories, not through photographs, but through museums, through education, and so on and so forth. So do you think that silence has affected the way Africans generally view their states?
If you advertise your illness, you always find a cure for it. No tourism, nobody going into Aso Rock. I can't even photograph Aso Rock, for example. I can't, because it's so absurd that you have places where public places that are cordoned off for people, you know. So for me, I'm being intentional about it. And for me, it's part of what my gift to Nigeria. Nigeria has been recorded from 1900 when the whites started documenting since the advent of photography. But how many of those images are recent?
Yes, indeed. So your body of work, 774 local government areas and communities across Nigeria, is a de facto ethnographic record of Nigeria and Nigerians, isn't it? You're capturing the lives of ordinary people. You're not capturing chaos or crises, but you are capturing the normal, the everyday. Here's my question. What precisely, in your view, is lost when states or nations fail to capture the heartbeat, the everyday working lives of the people and the nation?
We lost culture. We lost history. First example, tribal marks. Architecture. Most of the old houses has been demolished. Even the ones that should be national monuments are being torn down to build a modern one, you know. And then That to me are the things I look for first, because as the landscape is changing, as demography is changing, as what is it called is changing, the environment is changing. I mean, you look at Third Mainland Bridge towards Makoko, it's been sandfilled. In years to come, nobody will know that place used to be a place where people live. You just think it has always been there. You see Eco Atlantic. One of my iconic images was the Ahmadu Bello Way, when it has really got gone, you know. And now I take my children, I tell them stories, and they just don't believe we are driving on the Atlantic Ocean, you know. Same thing applies in other states as well. A lot of things are changing. The landscape is changing. We are advancing. Unfortunately, only a few people can see this. And in seeing that, you are seeing opportunities.
So, Dayo Adedayo, your images now appear on passports and currency. Incredible. I'd like to ask you at this point, what does it mean to you to be in a position to smuggle culture across borders in that way without it ever being debated?
The highest point was during President Olusegun Obasanjo's regime, when the then minister Franklin Wike commissioned me to have my pictures at the presidential wing of the airport in Abuja, you know. And when I was told that, there should be a picture behind the president's seat, I was in tears. I was very emotional. I called him and I said, "Oh God, please, this is the height, because for your country to recognize you, and then for the presidents of foreign dignitaries coming into the country via that place to see my work without knowing me as lowly as I am, from a very humble beginning from Ukeliwo, somewhere in Jebu, for the Jebu is local government of the state, to be honored so much, just for the highest authority in the country to see my work was something else. Then the passport came again first in 2014 with the Naira notes. I was very emotional. You know, and because that's something I took to my heart to say, in years to come, millions of years, if this world is still alive, the generations that I will never come across will research and say, "Oh, look at my great-great-great-grandfather's work here." It was the highest point of my career, and honestly, it gets to a point in one's life, you don't look at money anymore. So I've gotten to that point of my life, then what can I give to Nigeria? And I eat, sleep, drink Nigeria, and I preach Nigeria to everyone I can, because philosophically, you have to think deep. Even in this profession, without being a philosopher, you walk and die as a pauper.
On that note, I'd like us to move on and talk about another audio work, Lagos in Motion. We've just been talking about lawlessness and chaos, and a lot of people describe my beloved Lagos as chaotic. But your photographs appear to tell a different story. You seem to be talking about overlapping systems, informal order, bringing order out of that chaos, perhaps about showing that before there was constitutional law, people governed themselves through informal systems. Tell me a bit about that as a system to the madness, and it's depicted in your work. Talk to me about that, Lagos in Motion.
Lagos in Motion is something I can't finish on this table. Why? The people, the culture, the fashion, the food, everything moving on the water of Venice of Africa as you are seeing the chaos, I'm seeing beauty. And if you've been opportune like me to fly a chopper on Lagos, it is the most beautiful city you can ever think of. Because by the time you take off from Caverton helicopter on the Zumba Ambadiwe up into the sky, either you go towards Marina or you venture toward Lekki and you go high up there, looking down on the creeks that looks like a carpet and the water going around the vegetation up to Badagry, and you see the Atlantic on the left-hand side, the lagoon on the right-hand side, and you see the peninsula that cut across West Africa all the way down to Senegal, which we can turn into our Florida. Because you have the lagoon on the left, and no, you have the Atlantic on the left and the lagoon on the right, and that stretch of land just going on, and you see the palm trees, and you make a U-turn from Badagry because you don't want to go into the Republic of Benin, and you fly the same chopper towards Ekwe, then you will see how beautiful Lekki is. From above, Lekki is one, aside from Ibute-Metta, Lekki is beautiful from above. Then you see all the houses, the roads coming, nothing going outside. Then before you get to Lekki, you see Ikoyi, where you see a lot of grains. And all the way to Egbe. Then I go back to the mainland, which is quite shocking. And you get to the mainland and no trees at all. I'm trying to recollect all these pictures. Your eyes are closed, and no tree at all. Imushi, Ushudi, Bariga, no single tree. Meanwhile, you're from VI, you go into Ikoyi and you see all the greens, the vegetations covering the houses, going up into the sky. And you just wonder, God, this is beautiful. So Lagos for me is the Venice of Africa. All those canals can be turned into things we can use boats, like the gondolas they use in Venice.
Yes.
And just be going through it. And you'll be seen from the old towns of Obalinde, where you have the Dambrak, oh my God, I don't want to talk about too much about this, and you go out of that and you go into Lagos Island, where you have the 2 kilometers square of history, relics of Nigeria, from the president's house near the governor's house currently, Pinkton Peak, and the pole. They were built in 1849. The marina, the bridge that you see that goes straight to Akomo, was all water.
Yes,
everything in front of that was all water. Up to Ibute-Metta, go around there, back to CMS, the story, go into Ibushiri, look at the Brazilian returnees' houses, the architecture that they brought from Brazil, because by the time they got to Lagos, there was all the houses were thatched roofs, no decent houses. And that was where Darisha made this money from water, from Iju, pipe water from Iju to Lagos Island, because I was not pipe-borne water. And the first pipe-borne water, I have the pictures as well. I don't know what is happening to it today. Going to the Iga, where the palace of the Oba is, and you see the what is it called, the cannonballs to protect the king against invasion, because right in front of him, before the sun filled all those areas, was the lagoon. I had a long chat with the current Oba of Lagos, Akiolu, when I did this portrait show, and we had a lengthy talk on the creation of Lagos, how Lagos is before. So it gave me an inkling, and I went out of my way to buy several books on Lagos to see what it was like, and those things are there for us to see. And those are the little things that I do.
So what does all of this say about the value, really, that we place? I mean, you are desperately trying to photograph and create archives and preserve memory. What does it say about our sense of value as a society? Even the monuments and the heritage sites that we have, do not receive the due attention, do they? Not to talk about creating photographic archives. What does this say about the underpinning values that produces this sort of society?
I was lucky to be born at a time when the most respected people in the society were teachers. And if you're unruly, your parents will take you to the most famous teacher in the community to grow up with the teacher, not paying the teacher, maybe by food. And religion was not this common then. Me back into religion again. So, what values are we seeing now? Everything we see now is money, money, money. Education being in the background. You see a lot of folks, you have insurgency in the Northeast. Who are these people? You can't have the kind of education that I had, and someone will come and tell you, oh, you have to do this, to do this, to do that. So you can, it won't happen. Today, even though Lagos State that I know, education is free, a lot of people are still not going to education because what I tell people now is not everybody have the brain of 1 + 1 is equal to 2. You look at the artist, if you drop them in a laboratory, they will blow it up because they haven't got a clue of what to do. No matter how good you are on a football field, if they put you on the tracks and field, you will fail, correct? So we all have different attributes in life. So what is left for our political leaders is to de-emphasize the power, the noise of money. Because the more money you see people throwing around, the more the younger folks believe that money is everything. Yes. Meanwhile, in Yoruba, or what is it called now? In Yoruba ways of doing things, money is the least. Omoluabi, your character, your integrity are the key components of a good person. And I remember in those days going to school, my mom, my maternal grandparents would tell me, "Not your humanity worship. Remember the child of whom you are." Of course. So when you want to do something nasty, when that one comes to when you bring it out of your hard drive, you constrains you, from doing what you have to do. So in terms of values, we need to change into education, because an educated mind, among all these people doing bad things that you see across, I don't want to mention names, that the challenges we're going through in terms of insecurity, among them are great astronauts, the greatest physicists, the best brains you can get in the economy. But how do you now get it? How do you extract all these things? Without education, they will just be wasting away. And you, that are sending our children to school to get the best of education, will be lost at the end of the day, because they are more in population, of course, than us. So then what have we gained? So for me, aside from photography, I'm a role model to so many other young ones that I mentored, and for them to see that there is more to life than money. The most important thing in the world, which is free, nothing can influence it, is love.
So Dayo Adedayo, and talking about future generations, if a future generation were to encounter Nigeria first through your archives, what might they misunderstand about Nigeria? And perhaps after a period of reflection, what might they then come to understand?
For the future generations of Nigeria, one, they will count themselves lucky not to be born during our time, because there are images where I've been on top of Suku Heritage Site, which is about 93,000 feet above sea level. You can't drive. There is no car or anything. You have to walk up the hill. And they see where people live, what they eat,
most of them not wearing anything. They wonder, they will go back in time and say, oh, wow, this is how people used to live in those days. You come to my village in Okeliwo, Ijebu-Fe, you see the landscape and you wonder how people survive in such an environment. You come to Lagos, you see the Molues, because I have pictures of all the old Molues and stuff to say this is the transportation that people were using. And you wonder, just like I wonder when I was in Abia State, during the long journey of Arishiku, the caves there are a lot of caves, several caves in the eastern part of Nigeria where they take slaves through to get them onto the Cross River and take them to Akwa Ibom before they go. I wonder how people survive I'm trying to remember, at the Milan cave in Akwa Ibom State, where they put caves before they go into, and if you go into that concrete place, it's as if you're hearing sand. Just like I wonder, they too will wonder to say, oh, wow, how did they manage to do? They will see the beautiful streets of Abuja and they'll say, oh, wow, so they're not doing bad, Oh, so this was here then, just like we wonder at the Shugmeredo in Okeri, Jabubo, Ogun State, where the Queen of Sheba mentioned in the Bible and the Quran was buried. They will wonder, oh, whoa, what is civilization? They will wonder when they see the Benin moats that I've taken, I wonder that, oh, wow, this is the largest monument ever made in the history of mankind, 10 times longer than the Great Wall of China. They will wonder when they go into Niger State and see the Gurara waterfall and say, oh, wow, these people really had good time. You leave that and you go to Enugu, where you have Eziagu Cave. Inside Eziagu Cave is a massive stream, clean water, the cleanest of water you can find, gushing out. And you wonder why villagers do not have water to drink. Why were they thinking, why can't they pipe this water into the homes of the villagers to make things good for them? At the end of the day, they will have nothing to wonder, and maybe one, two, or more of them will want to take those steps. Where I was standing when I took those pictures, they will stand there to say, yes, this is the same video that I took. And today I'm very happy and proud because a lot of the younger ones who wants to go into the same field now took my book as a Bible because no one has ever done it before. But my prayer is for those who are going to do it again, to do it better than I have done and to present to the world that Nigeria is the best country to live in the world. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Dayo Adedayo, thank you for the record. And thank you for joining us on One to One. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
so very much.
Thank you.